الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم ومن تمسك بهديه إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. The Imam recited in the Salah one of the verses in the Quran al-Kareem in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminded His slaves, all of them, those who believe in Him and those who don't believe, those who professed and made manifest their faith and those who hid it, those who were sincere and those who weren't. He subhanahu wa ta'ala reminded them of something, a critical point in the history of humanity and mankind. And that point, or that time, was when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, هُوَ الَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ. It is Allah, He is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has sent a messenger among the Ummiyin. Allah, the Sublime and the Exalted, is the one who sent this man and dispatched him and gave him divine revelation among a people about whom one of their previous leaders said that my people are a small people, a simple people, a people who are afraid of change and afraid of things that are modern. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He sent among these people not those who are known, who are famous, who are respected, those who were trendsetters, those who made policy, but a people who were small and humble, a people that were known for their virtues, and besides that, there was la dhikra among the other nations and the other parts of the world. People who couldn't read, people who couldn't write, people who were fighting each other, killing each other, raiding, plundering, murdering each other, tribe versus tribe, brother versus brother. People who drank and became intoxicated. People who did all types of crimes to orphans, to young children. People who Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu said about them, he said, in Jahiliyyah, we gave women no respect. La na'uddu laha amran. He says she had no regard in Jahiliyyah. She was a possession. She was something put and taken off of a shelf. A people that Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu and others have said they worshipped idols. They made things with their hands and they sought the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through that which they created with their hands. And the list goes on of acts of misguidance and blindness and backwardness that these people had with them. So Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, it is He who sent among these people who couldn't read, who couldn't write, who were base and humble, a messenger from them. Someone that they knew, someone that they could trust, someone that they could respect. Someone that Abu Sufyan at the time, who was not a Muslim, who was not a believer, was asked about this man, Muhammad. Who is he? Who is his father? Who is his grandfather? Does he come from high stock or low stock? Does he come from a lineage of princes and kings? Was he known to be a liar? Is he someone who's treacherous? Is he someone whose followers leave and abandon their faith after they've accepted and embraced it, etc.? And Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu at the time wasn't a Muslim and was an enemy of Muhammad. He said no. He said he came from the best of lineages. His genealogy was known among us and well respected. So Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, minhum, from them, a human being, a man who walked and talked and slept, a man that they could relate to, a man that they couldn't accuse and attack his character. And what did this man do? And why was he sent? And most importantly, brothers and sisters, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring up this favor in this verse? He doesn't talk about the creation of the heavens and the earth. He doesn't speak about giving men eyes and ears and hearts and feelings and the other countless blessings that are mentioned in the Quran al-Kareem. But He tells us of a few things with regards to this man and with regards to these people. What are those things? هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته. First and foremost, the initial job of the messenger, of any messenger, a messenger of God and a messenger for men is to recite, is to speak, is to pass on something orally. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ is the initial job of the Messenger of Allah was a teacher, was an instructor, was an educator. That's it. Not an example, not a role model, not a guide, but someone who was a reciter. That's it. Is to read Allah's words. Tell them about the Quran al-Kareem. That was the initial job. But the verse doesn't stop there. The favor is better than that, bigger than that, and more complete than that. The next step of the Messenger of Allah, which was the turning point in history, was the turning point for all living beings. As Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us in another verse, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We've only sent you as a means of mercy for jinn, for animals, for birds, for trees, let alone the human beings. Let alone the human beings. But everything that is from the Alameen, Muhammad was sent as a mercy to those created beings. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ. Number one, reciting their verses. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ. And then teaching them the book. What's the difference between teaching the book and reciting the book? There's a big difference. Because when you recite, that's all you're doing is reciting. But when you teach, you're instructing, you're showing, and you're living as an example and as a role model. And not only did he teach the book, but he also taught the hikmah, the wisdom, the explanation of the book, the interpretation of the book, and that which was best with regards to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had intended, and that was his sunnah. That was his sunnah. And then the Prophet ﷺ is also described in this verse to cleanse them, to clean them. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, he cleans them, he cleanses them. How did the Prophet ﷺ cleanse them? Did he command them to wash? Did he pour water upon the Sahaba? He cleansed by Allah's permission, and he poured water upon their souls. He made tazkiyah. So we understand from the foundations of Islam is tazkiyah to nufus, is purification of the soul. But how do you purify your soul? And with what? The purification of the soul goes back to the previous parts of the verse. Through tilawah, through the book, through the sunnah. In other words, the Prophet's main weapon with the Sahaba was knowledge. And the biggest enemy against that message was ignorance and jahl. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he caused the state and he caused the time in which the companions lived before Islam, he called it Jahiliyyat al-Ula. Allah Azza wa Jalla, he doesn't say the time of dhulm, he doesn't say the time of tyranny, he doesn't say the time of killing and murdering, he doesn't even call it the time of shirk and kufr. But the most manifest, black eye, the biggest, ugliest thing that they lived and they experienced and they suffered from was ignorance. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called their state and their lives. It's a time of ignorance and darkness. So the Prophet ﷺ was a teacher, he was a reciter, he was a role model, he was a cultivator. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, he says, وَإِن كَانُوا مِن قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Even though he was sent to them with these attributes, with these characteristics, because if a person recites, and obviously they didn't know that was what was recited. If he taught them, they didn't know what he was teaching them, the book and the hikmah. If he purified them, he had to purify them from something that was dirty, from something that was filthy, from something that was improper that had to be removed. But Allah Azza wa Jalla leaves no avenue or no space for doubt. He places emphasis. He says, "When كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين." They were in manifest error, plain error, no guidance, no future, no tomorrow, let alone having a mention among the other nations, whether it was Rome, or whether it was Persia, or whether it was the kings in Abyssinia and Yemen, and other parts of the world which were thriving societies. These people, they had nothing until Muhammad ﷺ brought them something, gave them something, until he fed their souls, cleansed their souls. And then what happened? What happened? What did that companion say when he stood in front of the great kings and leaders and generals of Persia? He says, "We've come to you and we were sheep herders. We have nothing. We used to suck on date seeds. And he gave them clear instructions. Lay down your arms. Put down your weapons. You won't be hurt. You won't be treated unjustly. And if you refuse to fight us as Muslims, you will be vanquished. Allah will support us against you. And look what happened. The campaigns went from scattered people, lost people, to conquering two of the greatest nations in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. A decade or two, 10, 20, 15 years, they went from Muslims that were afraid to pray in public to conquerors over the world. And that is because of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam's teachings, and as a tazkiyah, and him being a role model and a leader. So the point that we're trying to get to, this is the greatest blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if it wasn't for Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and the knowledge that he gave us, and the knowledge that he taught us, and the tazkiyah that he instructed us in, we wouldn't be sitting here this morning. This masjid would not be full of all of these youth. And there are many masjids that you can go to, not only in Minnesota, not only in the Midwest, not only in the United States, not only in the Western Hemisphere, but in the world. You may go to a masjid in Medina al-Nabawiyah, the Prophet's city, and it may not be this many amount of people in the masjid, let alone youth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is my witness, I'm not exaggerating or lying. In Ramadan, the Eid, maybe Jumu'ah, the masjid will become full. 2 large rows of people. Outside of that, 1 row. So this is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where do you get that blessing from? That blessing is from Allah, the mighty and the majestic. So it is upon you to do the following things. Number 1, you must recognize that blessing. Number 2, you must speak about that blessing. And number 3, you must uphold and fulfill and thank Allah the Subhanahu Exalted for that blessing. And reflect upon the previous Muslims, how they went from nothing to everything. How the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba went from nothing to everything. People who are afraid, to people whom the Prophet ﷺ said, "Nusirtu bil-ru'bi masirata shahr." He says, I've been given 5 things no prophet was ever given to before me. No prophet has been 5 things. And what were those 5 things? As Jabir ibn Abdullah narrated, he says, "Nusirtu bil-ru'b." He says, Allah supports me by striking fear in the hearts of my enemies a month's distance. A month before I got to them, they were shaking and they were afraid. But before this, the Prophet ﷺ and his Sahaba were qaleel, fewer number, smaller number, weak, as Allah Azza wa Jalla clearly stated in the Quran al-Kareem. And as Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala stated, he said, before Umar accepted Islam, we did not pray in public. We were afraid to make salah in public areas before Umar accepted Islam. So just look and just reflect how things change. How things change. And what is the factor behind those things changing? So ask yourself, are you reciting Allah's ayat? Have you cleansed yourself? Do you know the book? Do you know the hikmah? And most importantly, what are you doing with your youth, your years of gold? What are you doing with them? Playing basketball, laughing, joking, sleeping, talking, walking, having fun, let alone making sin. What do you want to be tomorrow? Because wallahi, tomorrow you're going to be old and gray. And the people that are sitting that are old and gray won't be here anymore. So what are you going to do with yourself, with your life? Do you want to be something? You want to be raised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the Sahaba were raised? You want to have a dhikr in this life and then thereafter. As it was a well-known story, that there was a man who was born and he was deformed. He lived in Mecca. As Al-Khatib al-Baghdad rahimahullah narrated this story, that a man was deformed. And his mother, she said to him one day, and she took pity upon her son. And she said, look at you, my son, you're so miskeen. Everybody who looks at you, he mocks you. They make fun of you. You get no respect and no love. It said that his head was directly attached to his chest and his shoulders. He had no neck. born in deformed manner. She says, "Oh my son, if you seek knowledge, perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise you. Perhaps Allah the Mighty and the Majestic will cause those people who laugh at you and mock you and make fun of you. Perhaps there will be people who respect you and fear you and seek what you say." So the young boy, he took the advice of his mother. Even though he was deformed, even though somebody may say he was done an unfair hand. And Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah mentions that he became so knowledgeable, so formidable, so strong and powerful in ilm, that he became the Mufti of Mecca. The holy city of Mecca, where all Muslims from all walks of life, colors and ages go to and seek. And it was said that the people, after he became the Mufti of Mecca, they couldn't bear to look him in his face. Not because of his deformed figure, but because of the knowledge and the respect that he commanded from them. Look how Allah raised him, from nothing to everything. There is no doubt, the youth today, they need guidance, they need direction, they need inspiration. And there lies no doubt from the things that will benefit you, benefit your family members, and bi-idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you among those who are mentioned in good in this life, and then hereafter is ilm, knowledge. Knowledge of the deen in general, and specifically knowledge of the sunnah of the Prophet, knowledge of his hadith. Allah the Sublime and the Exalted, He tells us, وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ. He says, indeed, we have extolled your mention. Indeed, we have given your name precedence and status and loftiness. And Allah the Mighty and the Majestic, He tells in another verse of His glorious book, إِنَّ شَانِئَكَ هُوَ الْأَبْتَرُ. He who hates you, he who shows you enmity and hatred will be abtar, cut off, severed. Let's make an example of this. You may say, what does this have to do with your talk? What does this have to do with the youth? And then being raised in degrees. Is that when you seek knowledge in general, knowledge of the deen, more in general, but knowledge of his sunnah, it is a means of you being raised and exalted from among the companions. A companion who wasn't the oldest, who wasn't the most knowledgeable, who wasn't the foremost to accept Islam, who did not fight all of the battles, who did not give all of the sadaqah and support all of the armies, and the list goes on of virtues. He didn't protect the weak Muslims around the Kaaba. He didn't wrap the Prophet ﷺ up in clothes. He wasn't tortured in the desert. He wasn't the mu'adhin. A companion who only remained in the company of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ for 4 years. In other words, toward the end of his life. It wasn't like the Khulafa, the Ashara, Khadija, Bilal. He wasn't a person who accepted Islam at a young age as a child, like Ali ibn Abi Talib. He only accompanied the Rasul for 4 years. But there isn't a Muslim, rather a non-Muslim. There isn't a non-Muslim who studies Islam, except that he knows his name, comes across his name in abundance. From those who study Islam, who come from Germany, those who come from other parts of Europe, France, and the list goes on, of Orientalists, people who don't believe in Allah and the last day, but study Islam. They're all Muslims, except they read, they hear, and they see his name in abundance. And that companion is no other than Abu Hurairah. He wasn't the best of the companions. He wasn't the most knowledgeable of the companions. But his name is a household name. There lies no doubt this is confirmation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's statement. وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ. Indeed, Abu Hurairah narrated the most hadith. He sacrificed the most to seek knowledge and to be in the company of the Messenger of Allah, as he said, كُنْتُ أَلْزَمُ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ عَلَى شِبْعِ بَطْنِهِ. He said, I was a poor man. I left Yemen. I left my tribe. I came to Medina. And I used to stick and stay in the company of the Messenger of Allah just to eat my next meal. He had no food, no drink. Whatever Muhammad ate, that's what Abu Hurairah ate. He says, so I was there when the other companions weren't. I memorized when they had forgotten, and that's how he became a common household name, because Allah had raised his mention. He had extolled his name because he followed the footsteps of Muhammad. In other words, you take of that verse, according to how much of Muhammad's legacy you take. as Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَرْفَعُ الْعَبْدِ بِقَدْرِ مَا يَرْفَعُ مِنَ السُّنَّةِ. Allah will extol a slave only according to how much of the sunnah the slave extols. Allah will raise you according to how much of the sunnah you raise. In other words, follow Muhammad's legacy, follow his path, seek knowledge of the deen, especially knowledge of the hadith, knowledge of the sunnah, and you will receive a portion of that verse. Allah will extol your name and raise your name in this life, and most importantly, and thereafter. And similarly, those who hate you will be cut off and they will be severed. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who are purified and cleansed. Ameen. We beg that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teach us the book and teach us the wisdom. Ameen. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all true students of the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Allahumma ameen. We beg that Allah forgive us of our sins and have mercy upon our poor weak souls. Allahumma ameen. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Thank you very much. Jazakumullahu khairan. Please forgive me for taking up your time.